Okay, so first things first, could you just introduce yourself to the audience, like state your name, the title of like your current position, or what you usually do in theater, because I know you do a lot of different things in theater, and your favorite musical.
Okay, my name is Jeanne Bowling, and I am a voice instructor at Marion University. Along with teaching voice, I also am the musical director of the musicals for the theater program. I also have a summer theater program for high school students called Summer Stock Stage that I serve as the musical director of. We started in 2007 and produce full-length musicals, two musicals every year at least, um, for high school students throughout Indiana. Um, and we also started an advanced company called Eclipse, which were the alumni of the people who came through the Summer Stock Stage program and are now working professionally, and we pay them every summer. In addition to that, it is a gig economy. I also teach freelance voice lessons, and I have done musicals and musical direction for other universities, including University of Indianapolis. Last year, I did cabaret for them. And also, I am a costume designer and have costumed Anderson University, Marion University, lots of high schools and regional theaters. And before that, I was a performer. So you kind of do a lot if you're in the theater and music world.
With it being in theater, you've seen with Chris's interview and you're seeing it with Jeannie's interview now that people do everything they can in theater. If you're a performer, you may not always be a performer. You may like switch avenues and just do what you love and continue to be a participant in theater in some way. Um, so I think our next question will be, did you always know that you were going to have the job that you like currently have or jobs? Like, did you always envision yourself where you are now?
When I was in high school, I wanted to be an anesthesiologist. And then I discovered how much I loved music. My mother was a music teacher for a while. She was always some sort of a choral director, and my parents both sang and had wonderful voices. So I guess I was trying not necessarily to do that. But once I discovered that I have talent in that industry and that area, I absolutely couldn't see myself doing anything else. I always wanted to be a voice teacher. I always wanted to be a college voice teacher. I loved my college voice teacher so much. And I love musicals, absolutely love them. So teaching people, teaching students musicals is actually my dream come true. I love every part of it. I also love the costuming. I get to, go shopping and pick out nice, pretty things and dress people up and make them look wonderful and feel great. So it's a creative aspect also for me that really works for me. So yes, I always knew I was going to be a voice teacher and um, teach the music theater stuff. I knew it.
That is awesome. Yeah, I think a lot of people just kind of find themselves more thrown into theater, and that's like kind of where they land, wherever they started. But it's kind of interesting hearing your story that like you always knew that that's something you wanted to do, and you always had like that aspiration for it, and just like letting our audience know that even if it seems unobtainable, if you continue to work for it, you can get anywhere you want to be.
I actually had a doctor's appointment yesterday, and when I told the woman what I did, and she said, "Did you want to be famous?" And I said, "No, I never wanted to be famous. I mean, if I got recognized for something I did, that was great, but that's not why I went into this. I went into it because it's purely joyful, and I absolutely love the student aspect, teaching the students and sharing what I love with the students and helping them find themselves and find the joy that, we all seem to find in the theater. That's why I like what I do."
I think a lot of the younger kids, probably especially the age that we're working with, is 4th through 8th graders. So I think a lot of them may have the mindset that, oh, if I do theater, I'm only successful if I'm well known. And they define success by like Hollywood standards, I suppose, rather than personal standards.
I think if you can make a living and also find joy and happiness in whatever your job is, you are successful. So while, I guess I could have moved to New York, um, I love New York and I visit there a lot and go to lots of shows. I love it, but I didn't see myself doing that. I mean, if that had happened for me, that would have been great. But if that doesn't happen for you, it's okay. I know a lot of students who just, and some of them even went to school for musical theater and then decided, hey, I really don't want this constant trying to find work, and they just loved the work that they had and didn't need to constantly try to be more successful or get the next big Broadway show.
Oh, so kind of piggybacking off of always constantly having to find jobs and things like that. I know, especially right now during like this pandemic, it's really hard for performers or technicians or anyone related in the theater world to find opportunities to progress themselves, advance their skills in any way. Do you have any advice for those young performers who are seeking to further themselves or just young theater people in general?
There are actually so many online resources. You can take dance classes, you can take acting classes, you can watch a lot of Broadway shows for free, you can watch operas, different plays, anything that just kind of stretches your abilities. I would take advantage of those right now. There are lots of online classes offered, and while it might not be ideal to do online, it certainly works. And there's also less pressure because you're not necessarily paying a whole lot of money to go to a studio and do it all the time. So take the dance class at home for free. Who cares if you aren't great at ballet? Yes, you don't have there someone to fix you, but you certainly get an introduction to it. So, when you are able to go to a studio, you at least have some beginning, or do just keep your body moving with some jazz and online voice lessons. There's a whole bunch of those. There's also some free tutorials about how to pick a song. um, just make sure kind of make sure the people you are taking this from are at least experienced in what area you're looking for.
Yeah, I think now especially the theater world wasn't necessarily closed off before, but they did make it to where a lot more of the online resources weren't available before this pandemic. And in order to try and continue to reach out to people and continue to have theater spread through everyone's lives, I think theaters have been pushed in a way that they've never really been in the past to have all of these online resources, and all it takes to find them is just like a Google search.
Right. And it's actually great that all those things are out there, that people actually, since we're not producing shows live right now, at least not very many places, they are actually taking their time to put great content online to help you learn, to help you, like free classes or reduced fee classes. Um, yeah, it's a good time, just sit in your room at night and watch a class or watch a musical or sing along. All of those things help you grow, all of them.
Yeah, so this one's a little off topic, but just to get to know you a little bit better, what's the most memorable performance or production that you've worked on and why?
Ooh. Um, as a performer, I would say when I was in college, I did a production of Little Shop of Horrors. And I was Audrey, the girl who gets eaten by the plant. And I think that was my first big lead that was something other than, um, just like a real person. She's a little bit airheady and a little bit different. So to kind of really make her a character was a good challenge for me. And the songs were, I was a legitimate high soprano, and so the songs were beltier, and that was really good. Singing in a little different style was great for me.
Yeah, I'm just kind of going to define what a legit soprano is versus a belting soprano, just because those are kind of new terms to the people watching. And so feel free to like jump in, Jeannie, since you are the vocal instructor and music teacher. Actually, could you define that? I think you define them way better than I would.
Sure, I would say a legitimate soprano would be one who was singing more classical music, or more traditional sounds, um, like someone from Oklahoma or Carousel, or The King and I, one of those older Rodgers and Hammerstein style musicals, or even Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder, just a more traditional style of singing. And then the style of Little Shop was more belty, where you're using your chest voice a little bit more, and it was in a lower register for me. Um, and it was more of a mixed chest register than just the upper high register. Um, but it was really good for me. I really grew a lot from singing something that wasn't what I always did. But there's no, there's really no rules. Just because you're a soprano, that doesn't mean you can't sing low stuff, and because you think you're an alto doesn't mean you can't sing high notes. There are, that's take a chance, learn it, and see it can work for you. Just do it. That Nike motto. That's my favorite. Just do it.
Definitely. So, what's a production that you've just absolutely enjoyed working on, whether it be musical direction, directing in general, costume design?
Wow. So many. Costume design wise, I can't think of any specific productions. Um, Maybe actually I'll come up with one. I did a play version of The Midsummer Night's Dream, which is a Shakespeare show, and there are fairies in the show. So I got to come up with some really interesting, unique fairy costumes. I mean, it was completely non-traditional. Even the main Shakespeare characters, we did a little kind of creative and almost steampunky goth. So I really, really like being able to be creative with that. I've done so many musicals. Since 2007, I've done two, I would say 5 or 6 every year. So, and sometimes more. Last year, between April and November, I did 8 shows. Between costuming and musical direction, 8 shows, which was a lot. But it was all, really great. So it's hard to find one show that you say is just the best. I guess the ones I like the most are where the kids have the most fun, where we all have the most fun. So sometimes we did Into the Woods a couple summers ago, and the music was so hard. But once we all got the really hard music, then you can just enjoy the hard work and enjoy the wonderful project, the performance that you got from that. We did Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat here at Marion University. And I really loved watching, the performers who said they weren't dancers or they weren't singers, um, learn to get really strong at, the thing that they thought they weren't so great at. So I guess it's just about watching them growing, um, and collaboration, when the students really take interest in making it their project and not just the directors or not just the music directors. They bring their own um, ideas and abilities to the show. I guess that's what makes them my favorites.
Yeah, so Findig actually kind of does what you were talking about at the later portion, where they make it their own regardless of the year. And because there's no adults behind stage, there's no adults telling them when to go on or anything like that. And so they really have to take responsibility. If they want to make it a good show, they have to make it themselves, which is pretty nice for our kids to do.
That is fantastic, because I mean, it becomes your show, it becomes your product, and it's the most collaborative. what's the word I'm looking for? Theater is one of the most collaborative businesses you could have.
Yes.
You can't do it without the lighting people. You can't do it without the set people. The actors are important. The stage manager is important. The props people, the costumers. It's very collaborative, and every person, if someone's part isn't there, you definitely miss it and you notice it. And the music and the choreography, it's all just so important.
Hmm. So for our last question, um, so what advice would you give to people who are looking to go into theater but are maybe a little nervous about going into it, or those who are trying to do theater but like not sure how to get into it? Just kind of it.
Um, I would say get as much training as you can, especially free training. If you're in school, be in choir. If you have a dance class that you can take the dance class. If your school's doing a musical or just a play, do it. If you like musicals but you really don't like plays, be in the play anyway. I mean, I did all the plays in college to get as much experience as I can. So, every bit of experience you can get is helpful. If you really don't have time to be in the play because you're doing something else, maybe you could volunteer to work on the set, because learning all of those skills help you in many ways. There are lots of theaters that hire people in a summer stock setting, and sometimes they have other skills. I worked in one of those one summer where I was in two of the shows, and then I was costuming another two of the shows, and I was stage managing for one, and we worked on the set, and you just work on a little bit of everything, and that can actually it makes you a better company member, and it makes you a better performer for sure, because those other parts. So take as much free training or as much training as you can get. This makes you more prepared for whatever is coming your way.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for doing this interview today, Jeannie.
Thank you. It was fun.